We're going to talk, spend some time here about the thoughts and use of the sacred word. Um, this is an area where we are challenged. We just talked about some of this. And so here we are. When engaged with your thoughts, return ever so gently to the sacred word. And that ever so gently was this whole visual idea of this, just taking this little feather and setting it down on this pristine pillow, just gently. Okay, just let me just return to silence. Let's return to the reverence of the moment. So in the teachings of centering prayer with Thomas Keating, they say that thoughts is an umbrella term meaning that there are many things that they refer to as thoughts or distractions or things that keep us from just sinking into the silence. And these terms are things like feelings and our senses. And for me, one of the challenges is sometimes before I'm sitting down thinking about maybe an email that I need to get out to somebody and they need to hear this and so on and so forth. And actually in some situations, if I have something pressing like that, I'll do that before I do my sit, because I know that it's just going to dog me the whole time. But memories and concepts and images and what happened yesterday and what might happen tomorrow, what's going on politically, what's going on coronavirus wise, all of those things in our physical body, all of those things are what is referred to as thoughts. And what I was sharing with one of you moments ago is that this softens over time. And so it looks very bold now, but over time, that these feelings and sense perceptions and body perceptions and everything begin to get less prominent in our consciousness during some of our prayer time. And they teach, contemplative outreach teaches that thoughts are inevitable, integral, and normal. Inevitable, if you're not having a thought, you're probably dead. So the idea of getting rid of our thoughts is an erroneous concept. We're not trying to get rid of our thoughts. They are integral to being human and they're normal. So what we're trying to do is we're just trying to let them go, not pay attention to them, not engage with them. A lot of variety of different kinds of thoughts, ordinary wanderings of your imagination and your memory, attractions that we have to certain things or aversions that we have to certain things. Insights, here's a question that frequently comes up is, wow, when I was doing my sit, I got this great insight to, spiritual depths and, so on and so forth. And I think from the elders that I've been taught is that we're kind of to let that go while we're sitting, to not pause, to just see that as another kind of thought, which is keeping us from sinking into the silence. Self-reflections is a big one, particularly for when we are new to the practice. Self-reflection is like, wow, this is going pretty good. I'm doing pretty good today. Or, wow, this is, this is really a hard day. Or, or I'm looking over, or maybe I'm in a group of people and I peek over at somebody and they go, oh, they look like they're really in deep, bliss. Now, self kind of reflections like that are other kinds of thoughts that we just don't want to engage in. Thoughts that arise out of our unconscious. The two terms that come up for centering prayer is that we are consenting to God's presence and we're consenting to his action within. So his presence, that's obvious. The action within is God can be healing us during our time in silence. When we open ourselves up and open our deeper levels of things that we're hiding or avoiding or whatever, as we sink into silence and as we open ourselves up, we probably God will have an opportunity to heal some of those things for us. And so this scripture out of 1 Corinthians is when the Lord comes, he will bring light into and light to what is hidden in the darkness, and will manifest the motives of our heart. So we're in presence with God. He's healing us. All we have to do is be open. There's what's Contemplative Outreach calls the 4 R's of 4 R's of experience with centering prayer. Resisting no thought. The idea that I'm having thoughts, that's a problem, or I don't need to be thinking. No, we don't need to resist our thoughts. We don't need to retain our thoughts like, oh yeah, I need to pick up some bananas later. Right, no, we don't need to retain that thought. React emotionally, yeah, I was irritated that so-and-so cut me off in traffic the other day and I'm angry about that. No, we don't want to react to that. What we want to do is when all of these things, all of these different kinds of thoughts and physical sensations and so on and so forth, as they arise with us, we just want to, when we feel ourselves starting to interact with them or connect to them, that we want to just say our sacred word, saying it in a very gentle, extremely gentle way, as a reminder that we've lost our connection, and we just need to sink back into silence. Take that feather, lay it over on that little pillow. I'm back. And that's a way of saying yes again to God. So resist no thought, retain no thought, react emotionally to no thought. And then if we do, we return ever so gently to the sacred word. So setting prayer is a method, it's not a technique. A technique is something that you do in order to achieve a desired result. I'm a graphic artist, and so I'm aware of, or I've studied, or I've Googled various different techniques to achieve certain kinds of outcomes on the images that I work with. Maybe you're a cook, and in order to get your frosting or your cake to look in a certain way, use a certain technique in order to achieve that. Centering prayer is not a technique; it's a method. It's a way of moving ourselves forward with our connection to the divine. During our prayer, we should avoid analyzing the experience. This is a big one for me. It's like, how is it going? Gee, I'm distracted today. All of that, I need to be letting go of. Harboring expectations. Oh, this is going to be blissful. This is going to be this way or that way. We don't want to attach to our expectations, or aiming at some specific goal. These are all of the various and variety of ways that thoughts come up and need to be can be distracting, and that we need to then deploy our sacred word to get ourselves back to the place where we've dropped into silence. Sometimes when I come out of my centering prayer session, my wife will say, well, how'd it go? And I shouldn't be answering that question. I should be just accepting the experience as I experienced it. It's not dependent on a felt presence. Centering prayer is not dependent on a felt presence of God, but in our deepening of faith in his abiding presence, accepting his presence, consenting to his presence, consenting to the action within. And here it says in Romans 8:26, likewise, the Spirit helps us in our weakness, for we do not know how to pray as we ought, but that the very Spirit intercedes with sighs too deep for words. So we just have faith that God is with us, the Trinity is with us, the four of us are there, and it is a beautiful place to be. In summary, I go back to my original remarks at the beginning of our time together, that we will hear time and time again about the word consent. That is really the essence of our disposition. Where we try to position ourselves is consenting to God's presence in action. And when we find ourselves not being able to do that, then we return to that consenting to his presence using our sacred word. That the thoughts are inevitable because we're human. They're integral in terms of our brains and our minds, and they are normal. And we have to let them come and let them go. So let me reflect a second, because I think I missed. Okay, here's a little description of how I was taught and how I heard Thomas Keating talk about our relationship to all of these thoughts. And that is, if you think back to this slide that I said, remember this slide, it was this woman sitting in front of the vastness of the sea. And she's sitting there in solitude. So in terms of how we relate to our thoughts, if we can imagine ourselves in that place, sitting by the sea, and let's imagine that the sea represents God and the vastness of God, and along come some sailboats, and they're drifting by, and these represent our thoughts. And I see them and I go, oh, I like that one. I've never seen that kind of sailboat before. I've never seen an orange sailboat before. Wow, they're going really fast. So there I am starting to get engaged with those sailboats going by. And so the disposition that I should be having, that I need to consider, is to let them go. Let the sailboats go on by. I see them, I notice them. They're like clouds floating through my consciousness. I acknowledge that they're there. They go on by. I'm not thinking about what color they are. I'm not thinking about how fast they're moving. I'm not thinking about, oh, I haven't seen that one before. Whatever, they're sailboats. So as our thoughts come into our consciousness, we can look at them in a similar fashion. That, yeah, there's a thought. Okay, you don't have to think that thought. Just let them move through us in the background as we're staying focused or staying in our silence. So I hope